you talked about how you're helping one organization and your plan there. Are you able to go into, or should people contact you for more details on how you're going to do consulting differently and how you're going to set
Yes.
up these things, or is that public?
No, I mean, I'll be publishing more and more information, but yes, they can reach out and contact us, of course. The whole idea behind a consortium, and this is really important. We don't really talk about this as much as we talk about the system and the training and the learning and everything
Yeah.
else. But the consortium is a collection of some of the top industry experts out there. People have been in the lean industry for the last nearly 4 decades, teaching it at a deep, exceptional level of knowledge. People from the complexity thinking industry, people from the team performance industry. We've got academics, we've got universities involved. So we're not coming in with the usual flashy presentation and $400, $500 an hour PowerPoint presentations. And yes, I used to be in that world where we paid people to do PowerPoint presentations at that level of money. We're actually talking about coming in and helping you as an organization understand what you need to do so you can take the action. You see the accent on you, meaning them. This is not me coming in and telling you all suck and you need to do all these things and follow me. This is me coming in and giving you the understanding and the tools and the visualization capabilities for you to understand where your problems are and how you need to change. And when you're struggling to understand what type of problems there are, whether they're in the ordered, linear, predictable world or the unordered, unpredictable, non-linear world. So this is what we call the sort of complex world in this unordered world, or the sort of more linear world, which is where TPS and lean thinking fits. Then we can help you understand that and help you understand which tools to use in those worlds. And you did ask me a little bit ago, one of the other things I'll mention as it comes to my mind is one of the key things for organizations is what we call weak signal detection. So how do you know what you need to know before you need to know it? So that's in the complexity thinking world, which is over here.
Yeah.
And then we've got tools which are known as sense making. And then there are actual products you can get called sense maker, which help you make sense. And this is early detection, early warning. How do you know before the problem's going to hit you? How do you know before the disruption's coming? How do you know when to make that decision to pivot or to stop doing this and prioritize that? That's weak signal detection. When you've got an organization that takes 6 months to get you a new laptop or 6 to 9 months to sign an MSA, there is no weak signal detection there. You want to know COVID's coming before COVID's everywhere. You want to know 3 months before it arrives that COVID's coming. So by the time it arrives, you're not impacted significantly. So when the markets are going to change, or there's going to be a recession, or there's going to be a major innovation in a product, how do you know? And so that's weak signal detection, sense making. It's all over here in the complexity world. These are things that will give you key differentiators from your competition and help you to go beyond your current competition. And these are the things that companies and organizations need to be learning. Let me tell you, there's only complexity practitioners talking about this at the moment. The Scrum and the Agile world are in the main clueless about this. And this is the type of thing they need to start understanding, how all these things intertwine and intermesh. This is in itself a complex adaptive system. There is no linear causality. There's no 5 why analysis in here. And in fact, 5 why analysis won't work in a complex world. It's a reductionist technique. It's deductive reasoning. It won't work in a complex situation because the causes are changing constantly in a complex adaptive system. So these are the sort of things that organizations really, truly need to learn. I went off script a bit there, but so did you.
I totally agree. But are you allowed to go into any of the details of how your consulting will be different or formatted differently? You mentioned the consortium, the fact that, you have a group of, I don't know how many, and you can elaborate, I guess, but of these deep experts, but how will you partner with the organizations differently than these other organizations have? And what does that look like? And what's the value prop different there?
So
Or are you allowed to go into it? Do they need to contact you? I mean, I'm not trying to
well,
put you on the spot.
no, I'm not going to go into. I'll go into a little bit of context, but I'm not going to go into detail about individual engagements because they're all privileged under non-disclosure.
I mean, if anyone's watching wants to engage with you, I mean, I'm not sure that their engagements with others will reflect what you do with them, but because I know you do everything.
People can contact me directly. There's lots of ways to get hold of me. I get pinged on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I've had, executives tweet me before and ask me to contact them. And then there's all the traditional things. You can actually give me a call, 844 Dr. Scrum, 844 I do flow. They'll all get to my phone, and, I just had a bit of fun with toll free one time. And because you can get me through the website, you can join the Slack community, all the links that James will make available to engage. My approach is a little bit different now. I've done this consulting thing for the best part of most of my career. Even in Toyota, I was, technically an internal consultant, because even as an employee of the company, I'm being called in to help departments, divisions, groups, and I'm training, teaching, coaching. So I'm consulting internally effectively. But what I want companies to do is, first of all, I engage at the very senior level, because if change is really going to happen, it has to start changing at the top. And there's an old adage I sometimes use in my presentations: never sweep the stairs from the bottom or the steps, because you just create more mess. So we need to start here and sweep down. That's what you do when you vacuum your carpets at home, or vacuum your floors if you have a stairwell or a staircase. You start from the top. And if you don't, then do that. It'll actually work better. And so the thing is, we start at the top. I engage here. And I really need to understand, and Craig does this a little bit. This is Craig Larman's approach. Start here and decide, are these people really interested in change? Or is this just, the next flavor? We've got a new VP comes in, they're going to go do some stuff for a couple of years, earn some stripes, and go on to the next role, where either it will go horizontally in the company or leave to a different organization, which is a cycle. That's another problem that causes challenges with getting transformational change to stick. Whereas when you look at organizations like Toyota, it's behavioral. So it is the culture of the company. It's become the culture because of the behaviors. So if we get that level of engagement, my next approach is to show them and to educate them in some of the things we've been talking about, but at a level that they want to consume it at. There's different levels of consumption of education and knowledge, depending on the level of the organization you're talking to. Once we've got that, then it's our job, and this is, for the lean folks out there, this is plain old lean thinking. We make the current condition visible so they can see what's happening. And then we help them understand how they might solve these challenges. And then we have access to a group of very, very influential people from very different walks of life, deep experts across this gamut. And I won't name them at this point, but there's a lot of them in that organization. Some of them will be revealing very soon when we've got final agreements in place where we can make things public. And that means we can call upon a very powerful network of deep experts, not your typical consulting organizations with the bot factories that they no disrespect to them, but maybe it is disrespectful. They put them through their bot farms, and they all turn up and they get 14 or 20 people sat around a large boardroom table. They're all tapping away doing PowerPoints or their expenses or something else non-value added while they're charging out to the organization. We're trying to get away from that model. We're trying to get away to the model where we want to teach you what you need to know, support you and coach you in those disciplines, and then allow you and enable you, not allow you, but enable you to be able to take the right decisions and pull the challenges and solve them. And we'll be there to support you along that journey. And I want to consult with you and support you, not insult you and tell you you're all doing the thing wrong. And I'm going to give you one thing. I'll finish my comment on this because it's about organizations. We talk about complex work and work that's sort of in the order domain. So if anybody's familiar with complexity thinking, there's sort of 5 key domains of complexity thinking. If you look at something called the Cynefin framework, and essentially you've got this sort of aporetic or aporia in the middle, which for simple folk like me, it means confused or confusion. There's a deeper meaning, but it is basically a confused state. Then you've got chaos and complexity, and you've got clear and complicated. Clear is sort of like things are simple and obvious, very clear. It's where people use that hideous phrase, best practices. I don't mind if you use current best practices, but not best practices, because best means that you can't get any better, and there's always better, there's always improvement, there's always Kaizen. So current best practices, simple standard procedures. An individual person can follow the procedures without little prompting. In the complicated world, you've got things where things are well understood, linear causality, poke you in the eye, it hurts. We get all understand that, but you need experts to work together to actually do the work. That's okay. So this is the ordered linear world, which the lean world understands very well. And
Hmm.
you get over into this sort of complex world where things are either chaotic. So, COVID was chaos to begin with, it was confused and apparetic. And then we dived into chaos while we try to figure out what to do. And this is where command and control is actually needed. Command and control works there because you need somebody to say, grab the hoses, put the fire out, do this, do that, do the other. Not all. There's no time for a meeting and a PowerPoint deck in chaos. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, when you get into complexities where things are very intertwined and entangled, but there's no clear outcome and there's no clear predictability. Now, I was talking to an organization and to a lady from an organization who said she's having a hard problem mapping complexity into real world projects and things in the organization.
Hmm.
So I sort of wrote a note and I said, look, is it really complex work? Because I did an exercise the other day where I said to people, is your work over here in the complexity world unpredictable, unordered, chaos and whatever you, or is it over here predictable, ordered, blah, 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 experts, everything's well understood. It's difficult, but difficult doesn't mean complex. It
Hmm.
means difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not complex. So complex means you don't really know if what you do is going to work. That's complex. And there's many other ways to describe it. So I said, in the organization or in an organization, typical organizational design, we've got all those silos we talked about, some behavioral issues, which is in the team science section, which is, lack of communication, lack of collaboration, no shared mental models, no shared cognitions, no psychological safety, no active listening. These things don't tend to exist. And it's this that makes predictable work complex. It moves stuff from the predictable side to the unpredictable side. The actual work is often not complex. The execution becomes complex, not the work itself. And this is exacerbated by a lack of skills and a lack of trust in the people. So a lack of skills or trust makes the work or the environment complex. So a lot of it falls down to that in organizations. So the work's often misclassified as the way the work is done is not clear or well understood, or the poor organization design makes the execution complex. So they go classify everything as complex. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense because you have if you don't understand a problem, everything is complex to you, right? So
It's perceptual. Yeah. It's a
yes, it's
perception.
perceptual. So
But actually, the work isn't really complex. You just don't understand it.
yeah.
And so we're trying to solve that problem. And Scrum and Agile don't solve that problem, by the way. They give you some techniques to plan. Scrum's a planning system. It's a planning cadence. And Ken's quoted that to me. It's a planning cadence. And so the thing is this, it helps you to order the work you do, but you got to understand the work. Okay.
Hmm.
And there's some unknowns, but just because something emerges doesn't make it complex work. And actually, a lot of Scrum isn't empirical. Feedback isn't empiricism. Go study that. I wrote an article on LinkedIn. Go read it. Go study what inductive reasoning is. And feedback doesn't make it empirical. So be very careful when you're describing empiricism and Scrum and you're doing empirical work, because most of the time you're not. Most of the time you're doing predictable, ordered, pre-planned, known outcome work. There's some difficulty. So you need some experts. It's complicated, but it's not complex. And it's neither is it empirical. It's just iterative. It's very little. It's very rarely emergent work that you're doing. It's empirical is when you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. That's where you place empiricism and inductive reasoning and experimentation. Now, here's the thing. If you solve the organizational design, skills, and trust, then the work predominantly will become ordered and predictable. And the flow system helps you learn the why and how of all of this. Then you need to apply it and reflect the results. Learning without coaching, I said this to before, or training without coaching is waste. You must apply it, seek coaching and support, and reflect on the outcomes. You must learn to apply both deductive, inductive, and abductive reasoning. And as I said to you before, which Agile class has taught you this? Right. And I wrote a note to myself and I was thinking about it, none of them, with one exception that I'm aware of. Scrum the Toyota way. This is where this all started originating. I started teaching that, and the flow system is what's emerged from my learning from that and a bunch of other sources.
Well, the focus of the question was to talk about how you're going to be different than partner with them. I was expecting, will we do 3 weeks here and 3 weeks there with this or that, or this is what we
There's
do.
no one size fits all, James. There's
Exactly. I
no
know,
one
but
size fits
I'm
all.
so used to it. I'm here. I'm used to expecting that answer. So I just want to address
What
the
did I
the,
s-
the
what did I
elephant in the
say
room
to
for the
what did I,
audience.
what did I say to you there? Is to inform and educate. It's not a
Yes,
template. If you want a
exactly.
template, go buy Safe. Go pay Dean a few million and buy Safe. That's fine. If you want
Okay.
a template, then come talk to me about the challenges in getting it to work, and I'll help you solve the gaps. So, I mean, that's the other thing. We can help solve the gaps in current implementations of other tools, techniques, frameworks, methods, approaches. And if you're happy with your Safe organization, but you have some challenges you're trying to solve that Safe isn't solving for you, or less, or Scrum at Scale, or any of the others. But Safe is known as that sort of monolithic, gigantic, big
Yes.
thing. They call it the big picture because there's lots of stuff on it, and there's reason there's no detail. There isn't in space to put the detail. But anyway, enough of knocking
True.
Safe. So you go and put in Safe in your organization. If it's working for you,
Yeah.
but you've got some challenges in some areas, come talk to me and I'll help you solve those and fill in the gaps. So remember, a system of learning and understanding, not a one size fits all template. Everything is contextual. Everything has to be applied within context, bounded applicability. We talked about earlier, this contextual limitation of tools. And really, everybody has to find there. I'm quoting my friend Ritsu Shingo-san, when he says, you have to find your own way. In fact, there's a quote in the book from Shingo. If I read it, he says, I strongly recommend that you create your own way. The flow system builds on TPS in helping you do that.
Yeah.
Ex-president of Toyota China, 40 years in Toyota. That's the way we work with organizations. I don't have a template. If you want a template, go see one of the big 5 consultancies. If you want a one size fits all, go buy one of the big frameworks. If you want to do it a little bit differently, come talk to me.
Yep. And I think that's, so you're not going to get obviously from Nigel a templated answer here, but do contact him if you want to. His links, all of them, all the links will be in the description below. And which you're gonna have to send me a few of those, by the way, because I'm not sure I have them all. But contact him for, as he understands your organization, he'll come up with a very clear way, as I've heard, been able to hear how a few other things are going, that he really does apply stuff to the context of your organization, and it's not just a short or a quick fix. It is something that I believe that he and the flow system will be walking with you and really dive becoming a part of your organization to help it, essentially. And so I think that it's going to be huge. It's going to be different. I can't go into all the details of all that I know either, but I think that you should contact him. You should contact him is what I'm trying to say. But if you decide to take the training, don't forget my links in the discount. And of course, like and subscribe. But do you have something less to say, Nigel?
No, I was going to say, look, I mean, I've given you a code, which is, there's only some very early adopters got a code prior and they've expired now. You're the only person with a code out there.